I just finished up milling some drawer fronts for a project that I'm working on, and even though I'm very pleased with the profile I chose, we need to make a little bit more refinement on there to make it the perfect drawer front for my project. We're going to address that over there on the drill press. I'm very pleased with this profile. There's a little refinement that needs to be made. The router bit leaves a super sharp edge around this corner, which is not good for finishing or staining. That sharp edge will not allow the finish to adhere properly or the stain to absorb into that corner. The router bit also leaves these little fuzzes all the way around that edge that need to be cleaned up before finishing, otherwise they'll leave marks again in the finish. Now, I can try addressing this by hand sanding it, but typically what will happen is if I use hand sanding this, I'll knock away some of that profile and I'll lose that super refinement that I'm looking for, or that crisp edge that I need to have this project really stand out. And that's where the sanding mop come into play. What the sanding mop is, it's a 24-layer abrasive mop made from a special J-weight flexible cloth. This flexible cloth allows it to conform to the shape without destroying the shape. And what it's going to do is it's going to knock off that sharp corner without destroying it. It's also going to sand the profile nice and clean to remove any of those loose fibers and give me the perfect edge for finishing. Let me show you how it works. We're going to hold this up against the edge and allow the mop to just basically come in there and match that profile. Now, as you can see, it's taking away all those little fuzzes and still maintaining that profile nice and clean without taking away any of that detail. It only takes a second to carry it through. See how all the little fuzzes and all that edge is coming off of there. Now it took less than a minute, and if you look real closely, all the fuzz is gone. I still have that very refined, clean edge, but the sharpness is off that corner to allow it to stain and finish very well. Now, this is a relatively small project, and that's why I'm using my drill press. If you're working on a very large project, or like a chair that you don't want to take apart and you couldn't really hold it up here to the drill press, we can also place the mop into a drill, a flexible shaft, and take this over to the project and use it the exact same way. Now, another project that I was working on, I'm making some small spindles. And spindles are the same thing. These are very challenging to sand, and without removing the detail of that profile that I used on my lathe, I want to get a really good clean edge. And we're going to show you how well these mops actually work. Now, I've taken a pencil and I've drawn some lines here so you can see how quickly it will actually remove those lines. So imagine that being some rough spots or some fibers that were left behind from turning. We're going to come over here to the drill press again. We're going to hold that up against that edge. In just a couple seconds, it's gone, and we haven't removed that profile, which means if I'm refinishing projects or it's a brand new project, I can really clean that detail very quick, very fast using the sanding mop, and they do last a very long time. Now, the sanding mop works excellent on woodworking projects, but it can also be used on metal projects. Now, I let somebody borrow my chisel here, and as you can see, they let it outside, it got all rusted, they got some paint on there, and I could sit there and try to clean all that up by hand, but I've got a fine grit sanding mop in here, and in a matter of seconds, I'll be able to clean up all that marks on there just by using my sanding mop. Look how quickly that has cleaned up that rust, takes it all away. Gives me that nice clean surface. I can even run it on those flat surfaces. In a matter of seconds, that rust is all gone. and ready for sharpening. See how simple that was? Whether you have a large project or a small project, the sanding mops are a handy tool to have around because, as you know, most of us hate sanding, and this really takes that tedious process and makes it very simple. I'm Dave Hughes, and thanks for watching.